What is up, you guys? It is day 18. It's a Saturday. We're coming in hot this morning. I am extremely caffeinated, as you can tell. Today, we're we're mixing it up. We're doing something a little new. We're staying in the email world, but we're gonna look at deliverability. That's what we're mainly going to dive into today. Um, Deliverability, is extremely important. It goes without saying, but I'm saying it. And I had to learn that the hard way when I first started writing copy, and like when clients were asking about deliverability and asking about, or like had issues with it. I had to kind of learn through mistakes. And I mean that's the best way to learn. And I've been lucky enough to be around people who are much more advanced in the deliverability world, whether it's cold email or just deliverability in general. And there are a few key things you have to keep in mind when you start a campaign, whenever you are trying to take your email marketing seriously. The thing about deliverability is it's constantly, especially with Google, it's constantly changing. So you have to be like tuned into the world of emails to stay advanced. You can't like take like a 6 month or year break and expect nothing to change. However, there are a few fundamental things that you have to keep in mind and you can do with your email marketing. And then there are a few things that shift in levels of variables. So we'll do kind of like a bird's eye view of all of it today and the most important things you can do in your control. Okay. So here you go. How to be best friends with email service providers, right? That's really who you're trying to be cool with. That's who are you want to make sure you have a good relationship with, because if you look like a spammer in their eyes, boy, you might as well you got to take a step back. Stop your email marketing. It's actually insane how many businesses, big time businesses too. I'm big into jujitsu, obviously, and I'm subscribed to different newsletters. And it's one thing to be in the promos tab. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the spam folder. And I know I'm not going to name any names here. I don't want to put anyone on blast, but there's, big brands like apparel brands in the spam folder. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? And you want to make sure you're at a 99 plus percent, like 99.7% deliverability, right? And these are going to be the most important things you need to make sure you take care of. And the three basic things you can do is get your SPF, DKIM, and DMARC records all straightened out. I'm not going to go into all that without, like, I mean, this would be like a 30-40 minute video if I did that. Essentially what you're doing is you're leaving a digital track behind your emails, and it says, I am the person that is sending this. I am the organization that is sending this. Your SPF, literally you just go into your admin.google.com. It's a bit of copy pasting of some records, and you connect it to your DNS, which is your domain name. So for instance, if you're like slipperyslides.com and you sell slippery slides, you want to go in and go to your domain settings, whether that's through Wix, Squarespace, GoDaddy, whatever, and you want to make sure that the records match what Google has. You're going to do that for your SPF, for DKIM, and DMARC, all three of them. You have to make sure your domain records match what Google has. And the biggest thing is Google, right? I think like 80+% of emails are Google, especially if you're in, especially if you're in ecom, but really any industry, Google is going to be the main one. So you want to make sure you're good with all of that. And so SPF, DKIM, DMARC, those three are they're straightforward. You might need to kind of, watch a tutorial, take like 30 minutes to an hour. Might need to do some troubleshooting. If you're a client and you don't want to deal with it, just pay someone to do it. Don't waste your time. Because it could take an hour or so, if not longer, if you have some existing records. All right. After you do that, a really good way to check and see where you're at is you go to Google Postmaster. Okay. I'm not gonna actually go into that because I do have like client stuff there, but essentially, um, what that does is it tells you exactly where you are verified on the list. Like if there are any issues with your headers, with your SPF, DKM, anything, just go to postmaster.google.com and you'll get those records immediately. You'll see where you stand with Google. Everything has to be verified. So postmaster.google.com, and then you can do it for Outlook, right? And this one, to be honest with you, I haven't played around with as much, but this is more so if you have an Outlook account, but I believe there are ways around it if you have a Google. Don't quote me on that one. My main focus, generally speaking, is Google. And I'll tell you right now, most email marketers is like you put your energy into that, but it's good to see where you're at. You're at with Outlook as well, and then there's also Yahoo. So those are like the three biggest ones: your Google, which is the majority, your Outlook, and then Yahoo. Okay, so again, SPF, DKIM, DMARC. Okay, we're not even going into cold emails or anything quite yet. We're just talking about having that set up for your domain. You have to. Okay, and then to double check, go to postmaster.google.com and see what everything looks like in terms of if everything's set up. And we're gonna go through multiple checks here as well. So it's not just Postmaster, and you can do it for. You could see where you're at with Outlook and where you're at with Yahoo, but these aren't the only tools we look at. So let's talk about. Actually, I kind of have this. Kind of have this the wrong way around. Sorry about that. Let's look at before we go into all that. Let's just look at MX Toolbox, this deliverability tool here. So this is another tool. You have a lot of tools at your disposal. This one's really important. You're gonna send them an email and it'll tell you where like if it where it's at in terms of deliverability, and if you're blacklisted anywhere, you can do that, and then you can also just look up your domain. So you can send them an email and you can look up your domain and you can see, am I blacklisted anywhere? Are any like websites blacklisting me for any reason? Now keep in mind, if you have a new domain, a new email, you're going to be blacklisted automatically until it ages a few days. So don't worry about that specifically. You can always Google the one that you have, and then people will be asking the same question, like, "Why am I blacklisted here?" And a lot of times, you're not. It's too fresh. Okay, so deliverability tool right there. You also have this one by Lemless is really good. All you do is you look up your domain, and you'll have this one as well. I always like to use multiple tools. Some of these might seem redundant, but I think it's important to have multiple tools at your disposal because they're not always going to be 100% accurate. So always use multiple tools. That's why I'm providing you with multiple tools right here. And then you can also send one to Mail Tester, right? So, uh, and then before I go into that, actually, the last one is Glock Apps. And this will actually tell you, this one's really interesting because it'll tell you, hey, which one of these, where am I landing with Google? Where am I landing with Outlook? Where am I landing with Yahoo? And the cool thing about this too is you can't really test it for yourself unless you have multiple emails like of different variations, like from different ESPs. You can try that as well, but these tools just immediately do it. And a lot of these are free unless you want to like upscale it. So you get like a couple credits, 2, 3 credits you can do for free. If you want to get really deep into it, you can pay like 20, $50 a month, whatever it is. It just depends. How serious are you taking your email marketing, and are you willing to invest in extra tools? If you're just starting out, the free version is fine. So once you use all of these, you can see it'll test it like all the elements. So your Postmaster, all of these, and you'll see, where am I at with Google? Where am I at in general deliverability? Am I blacklisted anywhere? And that will give you a good kind of foothold of where you're at in terms of your deliverability and in terms of how ESPs view you. So set all this up and then do all this testing, and then make sure Okay, we're still talking about right now. We're not getting into cold emails yet. That'll be the next thing I talk about. But we're just talking about promo, as in like sales sequences, welcome automations. Let's say you have your own mailing list, whatever, right? These are people that signed up to your list. This is not cold email, which is cold outreach, which these people aren't expecting your emails. Okay, that is a different game. That you still have to hit everything I just mentioned applies to both, but there's going to be a few extra steps you got to do for that to make sure you are not getting blacklisted anywhere. So for your promo emails, however, your engagement is king. Okay, Google's going to favor you even if you're getting spam complaints if people engage with your email. The way you can do that is obviously click throughs, links that they can open, and replying to your emails. If people are replying to your emails, that's a really good sign. That's like one of the best signs that you are a reputable sender. So just keep that in mind. Engagement is king. Google has a spam threshold of 0.03%. But also Google's like kind of counterintuitive and they switch things up on you. But if you're getting 0.03% spam complaints or higher, that's a big no. So you really have to make sure your content is solid. Um, so if you're spamming them with like useless shit, or you're always hitting them with deals with no context, no value, no storytelling, no nothing, just bah 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 bah, right? You're probably going to get some spam complaints. Unsubscribes is one thing, but spam complaints is what you don't want, right? 80-20 rule. So 80% of your, copy should be non-promotional. The last 20% can be like, also check this out. That's why we do a lot of value in the beginning of the emails. And then we do a little bit of storytelling. Okay? Or sorry, a little bit of like the churn, and then we're like, hey, here's a link. This is why it all connects. Also check this out. Simple. But if you're just like, hey, marketing promo, if literally there's marketing in your domain name, like marketing at whatever, that's silly. Don't do that, because you're saying keep me in the promotions tab, right? If you're not in the inbox, you're in the promotions tab, which is one thing. The thing about your promotions tab, if you look at Google, if you look at your Gmail, you'll see that. I'll just show you guys, like this right here, your promotions versus your primary. You want to be in the primary, right? Your promotions is, look, a lot of people are in, a lot of reputable businesses are in there, but you'll most likely start there, and with time, I want you to get in the primary, right? And the way you can do that is by, again, just good email marketing, good high response rates if you're asking for things, right? And you can always move things. So like, look here, Chase. Check out your new Chase offers. You see that? This is clearly a promo email. And this is what Google started doing. They're like, okay, we're gonna start separating this for people. And a lot of people do check their promotions, but I don't know about you. I don't do that as much, because I'm like, those are promos. I don't care for them as much. Unless if I do care, what I would do is, and you can tell your readers to do this, is just drag it, and then you go over here, and then you say, yes, do this for future messages. I'm going to say undo, because I don't want that. I don't want Chase promo emails in there, right? um but like, for any company, like, even for something like this, ideally you want to be in your inbox, right? So not in the promos. So if I care about Gaidam, I'm going to move that over to primary, right? If I care about those kinds of emails, I want to learn more. And the way around that is you can set that up in your email automations. So, for instance, moving on to now, we're talking about the promo to the inbox. You can set up an automation for when they sign up. You can be like, hey, thanks for making it. I really, appreciate it. It doesn't even really need to be your welcome email. It can be two separate emails. I get the welcome, like, thanks for being here. And then also the kind of like, hey, let's make sure my stuff ends up in your inbox. So this is how. Move the promo to the inbox, and that tells ESPs that, hey, I should be in the inbox, and then make sure you do it for future emails, like you saw. Another thing you can do is add them to your contacts. Just direct them to add them to your contacts. A third thing you can do is say reply with got it. Okay. And you can be fun with this. You can make it fun and be like, I don't want to end up in like email purgatory. That's what I do with my email list, right? I don't want to end up in email purgatory. This is how I end up in the inbox, and how you make sure what's in it for them. This is the value you'll get from that, from my emails. So make sure you don't miss on any of that and do this, right? And then with time, again, if your emails aren't spammy or aren't like overly promotional, then they'll end up in your inbox naturally. Okay. There are going to be variables, of course, but this is a general guideline. We're already 16 minutes in, and this is like scraping the surface. But honestly, if you do these things, you're way ahead of a lot of people. Like, it's kind of crazy to me how many people end up in spam. So again, it's the inbox, A tier, promotions, C tier, spam, you're not even on a tier. You're F tier, right? Like this. And unfortunately there's like Thursday boot company. It's like, damn, you're ending up in spam. And I bought boots from them. So whoever's, doing that email marketing, get on it. Like, you know what I mean? It's a big company. So you shouldn't be ending up in spam. Now, is there a chance that I'm part of the 0.1% that ends up in spam? That's possible. But generally speaking, if you're ending up in spam, get on it, right? Spam or promotions is one thing, fine, acceptable. Make a goal to get to inbox, but spam is a no-no. All right. So we've looked at the fundamentals of deliverability. We've looked at promos, a promo tab versus the primary, and tests you can do to ensure that you end up in the right place. This is, again, high level. Don't come at me if there's like little things here and there you can do. Of course there are. But if you're just getting started with your email marketing, I highly recommend you tick all these boxes and do same tests from different providers like MX Toolbox, and then go to Mail Tester. Do those things and see where you're ending up, right? Don't overdo it, because all at once, like try to space them out, because that could like freeze your ability to test. So last thing is cold emails. Okay, I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. I've been speaking quickly. All right, cold email. All right, so now, because you are showing up unannounced to people's emails, which cold emails work, don't get it twisted. If you do a good cold email campaign and you can solve someone's problem genuinely, and your list is good, as in like it's not like it's they're qualified lists. You've enriched the list by running those through different tests, then you have a higher probability, right? It all comes down to the quality of your list and your offer, whether it's cold emails or promos, right? The quality of your list is super important, and then your offer, even more important for cold email. So copy comes last out of those three, right? Quality of your list, offer, copy. So once you get these two down, amazing. Copy then becomes very important. But if you have a shit offer, if you have shit list, and then you're looking at your copywriter saying, what's going on with my deliverability or my open rate? It's like, bro, you got to make sure you get those two down first. Okay? So anyways, warm up your inboxes. So whenever you make a new domain, so let's say slipperyslides.com, don't reach out to people through cold email with that domain. You create a separate domain for cold email outreach. Why? It protects that main domain. Just in case, things don't work out with this cold email campaign, you don't want to affect that main domain that you're using. Otherwise, you'll have to change that domain as well. So just as a fail safe, you could say, have another domain. It could be slippery slides, not sales, but helloslipperyslides.com or whatever, right? Add a separate word, but still the brand is in there, right? Once you do that, you're gonna create Google Workspace or Outlook if you want for that a business account for that, and then you can create multiple mailboxes. So it could be hello at or info at helloslipperyslides.com or someone's name, ideally, like John at. So that's coming from a person, right? Even if the cold emails are. Once you have that, you need to warm it up for a few weeks before you actually reach out. There's a lot of software out there, a lot of services. There's Instantly is really big if you're like you're scaling, smartlead.ai. There's Mailshake is really good. I've been using that. Mailshake's like I'd say is good for like smaller campaigns, but you can also scale up with that too. So what these services have automatic warm up campaigns. So they have a network of people, a network of accounts rather, that your new mailbox will reach out to and receive emails from. Okay, some of the warm up campaigns I've seen or services are better than others depending on the provider. But you want to get that running for 2, 3, even 4 weeks ideally. The older your mailbox is, the better. The younger it is, the worse. So it's going to take time too. You're going to end up in spam 15, 20%, then it's going to go to 15, then 10, then 5, right? It's going to get lower and lower and lower, but it takes months, right? But before you send anything out, make sure you do that. And then also make sure you keep the emails per mailbox 20 to 25. If you want to go beyond that, create another mailbox at that same domain. I think it's like people do like 3 mailboxes per domain, I believe. So if you want to send like 100, 150 emails a day, you'd cap that out there. But that's what I found. Just to stay safe, start with 20 to 25 emails a day. You can go higher than that with time. There are variables here. So warm them up. Keep them at 20 to 25 emails at the start. Start at like 5 or 10. And then like within a month or so, 20 to 25. I wouldn't go too far beyond that. I would just make another mailbox personally. But people have gone further and made it work. So it really takes someone that is going to continuously test and see what the numbers look like. You can only get so far with your idea of whether something works or not. Really, you want to test and see for yourself. If you're not testing, it's just your guess, which is as good as anyone else's guess a lot of the time, right? Maybe you have a more educated guess, but test. You're going to be testing for deliverability. You're going to be testing for open rates, click-through rates, and that comes with subject lines, all that stuff. Your first line, the offer, the body copy, everything. I'm not going to go into all that. Already, this is like my longest video. But I hope this is helpful so far. Last couple things. We're coming to the conclusion here. Ensure that you give them an opportunity to opt out at least further in the cold email sequence. So if it's like third email still haven't gotten a response, put in the end is, hey, just let me know if you don't want to get these. I'll stop. Just reply and say stop, and I will stop reaching out. I think some people also put a link. However, putting links in cold email might bring lower your deliverability rate. So there's that. Make sure you give them an opportunity. You really don't want two worst things in your cold email campaigns is your bounce. If your emails are bouncing, which means you have bad leads, and you're getting marked as spam. You really don't want those two things to happen. So personalize everything is the last thing. So if this is cold email, make sure you say their name. Make sure you see what any info they have that is relevant to them specifically. This is gonna enhance your reply rates. That's about it. I mean, I don't want to make this too far, to make this go too long. Those are the essentials for cold email. And then really the most important thing here is deliverability. I went over cold email just as a bonus, but deliverability applies to everything. The fundamentals, testing, going from promo to inbox, which is going to be the majority for the people watching this. But if you're watching cold email, if you're doing cold email campaigns, these are important too. Okay. So there's your crash course on deliverability. If you're not doing any of these, this is going to make a huge difference. You should be. If you're not, it's going to make a difference. Okay. All right. I feel like I'm going crazy. Okay. Too much coffee. Okay. Have a great day. Enjoy your Saturday. I will see you here on Monday. Peace.